Hey YouTube, Heir of Carthage coming back to you from the lovely terrain of the Syrian Ridge map on Napoleon Total War. Syrian Ridge is a remake of a classic Empire Total War map that came in one of the expansion packs. Alright, let's take a look around. And tonight we're going to be talking strategy. Strategy because I talk a lot about strategy on Rome Total War and not as much on Napoleon. Now, number one, I am not the master of strategy on Napoleon Total War. In fact, I'm quite an average player, if not below average. But I will teach you what I have learned. You can see I'm playing as France. On the Syrian Ridge map or any other map involving a hill, it's best to bring some Hussar or Lancer light cavalry and quickly rush the base of the hill. This will enable you to get good position to keep your opponent from being able to rush over the top of the hill. If your opponent does quickly send forward cavalry to try and counter, you need to get to the top of the hill before they do so that you can get a downhill charge. So that's kind of step one. Real step two is to move your light infantry into position. And you might be saying, well, Air, your opponent isn't even challenging you for the hill. That's true. It's because his first move was to move rifles up, and my first move was to move cavalry. My opponent was smart enough to know not to bring his rifles to bear against my cavalry whenever my cavalry are shielded by the hill from his fire. So he decides to move back and fight from the plain. Alright, so I'm taking care of step two, and you might say, well, what if your opponent had rushed the hill with his light infantry? Well, just like I said, I would have mowed him over with my cavalry. Light infantry are no match for cavalry in a quick downhill strike. Alright. What if my opponent brought cavalry? Well, then you're up to the whims of fate at that point. You have to hope that you get the downhill charge, and you have to hope that your cavalry is better than his, or else you're going to be fighting an uphill battle. Literally. Haha, funny joke. You're so funny, Air. Alright, now let's take a look at my opponent's army real quick so we know what we're talking about. He brought a decent army, I think. He has 4 units of rifles. Where I think he made his biggest mistake is his artillery. He has 2 units of the 6-pound foot artillery, or at least I think it's 2 units, let me make sure. Yeah, 2 units of 6-pound foot artillery. The problem with 6-pound foot artillery is multifaceted, and that means there's many problems. Number one, although it looks nice and shiny on this new computer, it doesn't really do a whole lot of damage. He's killed a few of my men, and he got that one good shot on my horses that he won't be able to repeat. And the 6-pound artillery lacks firepower. It does have better range than, say, a howitzer, but it lacks the firepower. And on a map where you know there's hills, it's really pointless to bring it unless you know there's a particularly good position that you can get it to. So that was a mistake on my opponent's part, but I made that mistake a lot when I first started playing Napoleon Total War, which leads me to believe that this player is new, but I'm not certain of it. So let's see, he's got, it looks like 7 units of foot. On this flank he's got Dragoon Guards and Life Guards. Again, this I think is a mistake. Some players may disagree. I really honestly believe heavy cavalry is nearly worthless in Napoleon Total War, including Dragoons. I really prefer to have Lancer cavalry, pretty much no matter what faction that I play as. So that's pretty much it for my opponent's army. He's got equivalent cavalry on his other flank. I am going to cut out a great deal of the fighting because a great deal of it is me convincing my opponent with my howitzer that he cannot just sit there in the plain. So I'm playing a kind of war of attrition here with my opponent. We're both exchanging artillery fire, and you can see that this man right here agrees that they really shouldn't be sitting here in the plain, that they should probably be taking some other action. Do you have anything else to say in regards to this battle, good sir? Sir? I guess he's done saying anything. Alright, now that I'm 2 for 2 on terrible jokes, we can take a look at the British light infantry here. You can see that they have a nice little crater dug out here for parties. One guy is passed out. Who knows what he had in his canteen there. This guy over here is also passed out. They must have been drinking out of the same canteen. In any case, the good thing is there's some extra rifles laying around now. Oh, that guy had too much to drink too. Alright, really, I'll try and stop with the bad jokes. You can see my opponent here, if you look on the minimap, is sneaking some Dragoon Guards around, and you might say, oh man, that's going to be obvious. Well, it is to most players, but when you're the notorious Heir of Carthage, master of all Total War games, you sometimes make really stupid mistakes. And in case some of you didn't catch that, I was being sarcastic when I said that I was the master of all Total War games. Alright, YouTube, are you ready for a little more Heir of Carthage style strategy? Alright, here's my cavalry, damaged of course, due to my opponent's not-so-subtle dragoon attack that to me became very subtle. That's kind of a joke on myself there. Now I notice my opponent has moved his artillery quite far out from support, and all he's got out here right at the moment is this unit of lifeguards to support his cavalry, which he probably assumes is stronger than any of my cavalry units. And he would be assuming right if he's talking about an extended melee fight. However, right here you're going to see my Polish guard lancers in action. I'm going to charge into his lifeguards, or I thought these were, yeah, they're Polish guard lancers. Strangely, they're not charging with the lance. But in any case, here they are. They've charged into battle and killed about 11 of these lifeguards. There goes 12. But now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to leave my Polish guard lancers in a melee fight, because now his lifeguards will catch up and end up winning this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to charge my lancers out. And the nice thing about lifeguards is they're a bunch of rich fatties, and they weigh their horse down to the point where they can't catch up with your lancers. So there's now nothing they can do about my little attack. And while he was preoccupied, I smashed into his 6-pound artillery with my other lancers. I have my 7th Regiment of Lancers, and then I've also brought in my Chevaulegea Lancers, and I hit his lifeguards from behind and routed them, because they knew that they were cowards in their heart, to steal a line from Gloomy the Scourge. And there they go, routing from the field into the sunset. How very scenic. Alright, so that was a second phase of the battle. My opponent sends in reinforcing troops, which is Dragoon Guards. And Dragoon Guards are just no match for my Lancer units. They might be if there was no such thing as a charge, but there is, and thus they will die. And so they also go to join their friends in the School of Pants Wedding into the sunset. So enjoy it, friends. Alright, but now my opponent gets serious and he sends his other unit of lifeguards. And so I figure that I'll take the opportunity to kill this unit as well. But you do have to remember, as much as I make fun of lifeguards for being a bunch of, fat butts, they are pretty strong in an extended melee fight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pincer these lifeguards. So here they are charging me down. But once again, my cavalry, even though quite worn out, is faster than his, and you're going to see me here pill off this unit, so we'll get kind of the actual perspective. And these lifeguards are like, yes, you can't peel away from us, we'll kill you. But then I say, I'm going to charge you from all sides, and thus I do. But my men are very fatigued, and so all I'm really going to get here is a charge. It's not going to be enough to completely kill his lifeguards, because they have good morale, and they're strong in a melee fight, but it does allow me to kill half of his men. And then I'm going to once again charge my men away from the fight, as he's also moving infantry into support. Now I might have won that fight had I left my men there, but it would have been a big risk, and I really don't think that I would have won it in the end. Once again, I'm taking advantage of the fact that my horses are faster than his, but now that my men are quite fatigued, his are going to be able to keep pace pretty well. Anyway, I'm going to have to stop recording. That was just some more cavalry movement tactics I was going to show you. You really shouldn't leave artillery or cavalry units unsupported. Right, now becoming desperate, my opponent has to move his rifles forward. He's left with no option. And some of you might say, Air, you're quite the little cheater there, camping up on your hill. Yes, I am camping up on the hill, but if you'll remember, I was not started on the hill. I was started equally distant from the hill as my opponent. My opponent simply didn't take the initiative. So, yes, I could have come down off the hill long ago, but I'm trying to teach a lesson in this video, and the lesson is, if you don't go take the initiative and take the hill, then you're going to end up taking artillery fire, which is a lot less fun. Now, some of you might think, well, it's hard to control your troops, it makes for a frantic, quick battle. Well, that's true, but you tend to have a better chance in that than you do, say, in this point, where my opponent's troops are just being shredded now, because they're having to fight from poor positions, and with demoralized morale, because the artillery fire, and then I have them outflanked. So if we watch from their point of view, you can see that I have my light infantry firing from the top of the hill and also the side of the hill, and these rifles are going to start taking casualties pretty quickly. You can see them dropping like little flies there. There they go. So yes, basically I just, what I called it a war of attrition. I'm sure that has different meanings. But in this case it just means that I wore my opponent's will down by slow artillery fire and annoyance moves, and forced him to come into a bad situation. My opponent really should have fought with me for the hill in the beginning of this battle. So I'm going to come back whenever the line in the distance and on the mini-map that my forces are moving off the hill to engage the now weakened British opponent. And here my Dutch Guard Lancers are going to get a piece of his life guard. And once again, I just really think it was a mistake for my opponent to spend this much money on heavy horse. And he is trying to intercept me with infantry and his general, and I will gladly accept the invitation that his general sends. So I'm going to turn my men back around. I was trying to leave because I didn't want to get shot up by his infantry, but now that he offered to sacrifice his general, I will gladly accept. And I think that was his general back there. So he kicked the bucket, and now all I have to do is run my horses out of the way of his infantry. And I take very few losses, really. So we need to do a little bit more fast forwarding. I'm kind of moving into position. I'm trying to teach my opponent here, although some of you might think I'm just being mean to him. I'm kind of maneuvering slowly, you know, I could go faster and rush in, but hopefully he's paying attention. And some of you again might say, "Hey, that's kind of mean of you to take this long, not just put him out of his misery when you know you're winning." Well, it's one of the best ways to learn how to play better online is to get beaten by someone who's better. And I still frequently get beaten by people who are better at me. And if this player wasn't new, then I quite possibly would have gotten beaten on this map. My skill really lies at Rome Total War, and I'm by no means a master of that, but I'm certainly much better at it than I am Napoleon Total War. So my opponent is worried about my cavalry that is amassing in his rear, and he does manage to kill someone by getting into a square back here when I wasn't paying attention. But he's also forming squares here on the flanks, and he's not moving them back into position quick enough. So I'm using that as an opportunity to move my my light infantry into position. And that's my lancers back there. They got caught up in a square. And over here I have a Polish legion that's going to begin firing on this square. So here comes that fire. You can see many of the men dropping, and then they're also getting fired on from the front now by my light infantry. And when you're in a square and you get opened up on by troops in line, you just get shredded. Here he's already down to 3/4 strength and dropping. There's artillery fire coming in the center. I forced him into square over on his right flank at the same time that I moved up my line infantry, and you can see that with devastating effects here by the giant pile of British corpses. Sorry if you're British, don't mean to desecrate your country. Anyway, yep. So I'm really pouring in a lot of fire on my opponent now, and you can see that his troops are becoming quickly demoralized, and this unit starts routing, and it kind of causes just a chain rout. Now their general's dead. They're seeing their other troops routing. That artillery fire routed that unit. This unit's wavering. There they go. And so now it's just kind of a chain reaction up the line. The only unit with decent morale is this one back here in the back, and that's just because they're not being shot at. So here's his troops here. They're not even in firing range of my men, but they go ahead and start routing. And when I see his troops routing, I see this as the perfect opportunity to get some quick, easy kills with my cavalry. And this is because I don't want his troops to regroup and pose a threat to me. So here I charge in and start mopping up his routing troops. And he's going to form into a square likewise, and so I charge my light infantry forward to come in and get some shots at this unit that's forming a square. I'm not too worried that there's only one unit of infantry left. But yeah, here's my cavalry bravely chasing down these routing British souls, sending them to the land version of Davy Jones' locker. Has anybody ever figured out what that is? I mean, it's always nice when you're playing a naval battle to say, oh, send them to Davy Jones' locker. We need a land version of that, so if someone can come up with that, just let me know. Yeah, so here's his last resistance. They're forming up into their geometric safety, and it's not really much of a safety from musket fire, so you're going to see them getting cut down at an alarming rate there. And they're routing, and that is the end of my opponent's troops. Good game to my opponent. I hope you learned something by my tactics here. This was kind of a battle that was methodical. Sometimes, whenever you gain the upper hand, it's okay to go ahead and be methodical and to slowly take out your opponent if they'll allow you to. If not, it forces them to rush into a bad situation. So, good game to my opponent. I hope you learned something from this battle. I know it wasn't necessarily a close one, like some of my others have been, but there's still something to be learned from it, I believe. Signing off, I'll see you later.